Good whiskey. Girl, it just don't rain. You really look like I'm going to start off with some housekeeping items. Those of you participating in our 3-day absentee owner listing sprint, Module 3 was released this morning. The replay from the coaching call of Module 2 is also live. If you go to Module 2, coaching call replay, that is there for you as well. We'll have our last live Q&A session today at noon. At 11 a.m., I am going to do some live prospecting for multifamily property owners, specifically tax default multifamily property owners. I'm doing that for two reasons. Number one, it fits the absentee owner theme for the week. Number two, I think I did number two, but I said one, whatever. Number two, I have a client who is hounding me for a multifamily property in Mechanicsburg, and there's like nothing on the market. So why not do that work to see if I can find him a deal? Best case scenario, worst case scenario, I uncover other listing opportunities for myself. One way or another, I win. So that's what we'll do at 11. This is going to be a shorter session. I say that all the time, but truly, this one is going to be a shorter session. It's going to be, I would say, more show and tell. I want to share some wins, some examples. I'm going to unpack some things that I think will be helpful for you all from a conversation I had with Wendy last night or late afternoon yesterday. And I'm going to show you my deal of the week email. I'm going to show you the variation that I promised yesterday, a slightly different way of posting on Facebook, into groups, on Nextdoor, in Google Business to generate inbound opportunities for off-market properties. A slight variation that was inspired by Susan, who's in Indiana, and her MLS has some very specific language about what they can or cannot do to market or advertise off-market listings. So I'm going to share all of that. And I drafted my deal of the week email, but I haven't sent it yet. And I'm actually going to show that for those of you using Bold Trail, and even if you're not, most likely whatever you're using, there's a way that you can segment your audiences the way I'm going to show you when I schedule to send that, and I'll explain why I'm going to do that way. So I wanted to start with that. This email came in from George, who is participating in the listing sprint. And I think this is a screenshot of a text message, pretty sure. George is using the script as prescribed. Hi, first name, this is George with Starlink Realty. Just curious, is there any chance you consider selling your property at street address to an out-of-state private client of mine? It gets cut off, but it's the script that we've been using. What's your offer? Because I'm not selling, but if your offer is extremely good, I can change my mind. Now, I'm assuming that this is an absentee-owned property because, it's absentee owner week here, and that's the theme. But it may or may not be. Honestly, I don't care. It doesn't matter. George asked, would you send an offer? Hell yeah, I would. What have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? So what would I do? I would take the address. I'd pop it in to Fast Cash Offers to pull preliminary cash offer options. I would pick 2 or 3. In other words, I would hide all but 2 or 3 of the offers, and I would send them a 60-second or less Loom video. Here are the preliminary offer options. I'm not sure if this is at all in the realm of a number that might have you change your mind, but I figured I would send it your way, and also know that if or when you decide that you do want to sell, what most of the clients we end up working with choose is, for me, my 7-day stress-free home sale. It helps our clients sell for the maximum market value, the highest price the market will bear in the least amount of time, therefore netting you the most equity. Take your shot. If nothing else, you plant the seed so that if this is an absentee-owned property and Franzi, I don't know if I'm saying that first name right or not, but if she gets a call this coming Tuesday morning from a tenant and it's just like, that's the last straw, I don't want this thing anymore. Who was that George guy that was texting me? Let me go ask George what's up. So number one, take your shot. I think it was last Monday, my mindset minute was Wayne Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Take the shot. What have you got to lose? Number one. Number two, it's practice. George will be better the next time he records a video and presents an offer or offer options to Franzi than this one. So who cares? It's just practice. The more we do it, the more skilled we become, the more confident we become because we're more competent. Because the more we do something, we become more competent at doing that thing. And that's really where confidence comes from. Like, let's face it, you can do all of the positive affirmations you want. If you want to have real confidence, you have to be good at something. How do you get good at something? You do it enough that you have evidence to yourself and to the world that you're good at it. So just do it. Nike, just do it. I wasn't going to share this, but why the heck not? I shared an email conversation that the reply came at the end of yesterday's Closers Cafe. It was the one that said, "Hi, who are you?" And I was like, it clearly states in my email who I am. Like, what are we talking about? So I used Decky to do that reply. She then replied potentially, meaning potentially, and I sent her offers. She was like mortally offended, not by the numbers, but that the idea that it was a company that wanted to buy her property. She was just like, I mean, she was, I don't know. She was mortally offended. Okay. Do I care? In the moment, I probably cared a little bit, if I'm being honest. In the grand scheme of things, here's what I'm certain of. If that offended her, we weren't going to be a good fit. At some point, it was going to be a little bit of oil and vinegar type of thing. So I would rather figure that out sooner than later, because there are just more than enough other opportunities out there. So who cares? Next. I also got an email from Kyle, who's participating in the absentee owner listing sprint. He got a positive response, and we'll revisit that or do a deeper dive on that during the live Q&A session portion. Here's what I'm going to do at this point. I'm going to take a minute to share the details, not like intimate details, but details of a conversation I had with Wendy yesterday. Because I think it's relevant, and some of you, if you're not struggling with this now, you will at some point. She called because she has a buyer who is looking for a property off market. And off market because there's nothing on market that fits what she's looking for. That buyer, and I just learned some of this context in our conversation, that buyer had previously signed a buyer's agency agreement with another agent. It was last year at some point. It expired. They couldn't find anything, etc. She surfaced that buyer by one thing leading to the next in following our deal sprint blueprint. So she had some bait, which then led her to get this off-market property that she used as bait that she posted. And I'm about to, after this story, I'm going to share my post for the off-market properties that I'm using as bait this week. She did that, which surfaced this buyer. My point is it wasn't like one single thing. It was like one thing led to the next to the next. So she's been putting in the work for this buyer to uncover them off-market properties. And she's uncovered several of them so far. None of them really fit what they're looking for. It seems like they're very particular, and so be it. That's when it's a retail buyer, it's a reality in some cases. And also, the off-market properties that she has surfaced thus far are, for the most part, not listing opportunities. And her question, or what she was struggling with, and the reason she called is, at what point do I quit or do I pivot? At what point do I say, I'm done working for this buyer that I don't have any sort of agreement with, and also has, at least to some degree, a relationship with another agent, even though it's not contractual currently. And so we talked through a little bit, and I asked her several questions. Number one, the type of properties that you are looking for this buyer, are they properties that you, in areas or property types that you would want to list? And the answer was pretty emphatically yes. Do you think there's any chance that that buyer would sign an agreement with you? And one thing I didn't ask her is, like, based upon your interactions with her so far, like, would you want them as a full client? Right? Because, like, there is some of that to think through. And another piece of the puzzle was Wendy said, or made it seem like, they had already predetermined at some point later in the spring or summer, they would probably sign another buyer agency agreement with this listing agent and get more serious about the process again. All of that said, here were my recommendations to her. Oh, there was some other context as well. I asked, how many property owners had she contacted on behalf of this buyer? In other words, was it 10? Was it 50, 100, 500? And she had reached out to 50 and it had 8 conversations of some form or another. 8 out of 50, that's pretty good. Now she's thorough and she's getting after it, and she's going deep with those 50. In other words, it's not shallow. She's texting, she's calling, she's emailing, she's doing everything she can to leave no stone unturned. So here was my recommendation to her. Take it for what it's worth, and maybe this is helpful. And if there's clarifying questions from her or anyone else, I think this is a valuable conversation, because deciding when is enough is hard. And I don't think there's a perfect one concrete answer, but I'll tell you what I recommended, and it seemed like is her plan for at least the next few days, maybe weeks. And then I'll relate it and maybe give you some other things to think through if you're in a similar situation. one of the things I asked was how many more properties, because they're looking for a very specific type of property. Okay, a specific price range, bedrooms, etc. How many more of them do you think you could identify to reach out to? And she said at least 50. Well, I mean, why not? Why not? So I said, let's reach out to another 50 and see what you can uncover. Because going that extra mile may uncover one that could turn into a listing for you. You may get lucky and find the needle in the haystack they are really looking for. And if nothing else, if I want this person as a client or this couple as a client, at the end of that, I am going to document and demonstrate to them all of the work that I've done on their behalf and ask them a low resistance question, or a low resistance maybe isn't the right phrase, but a low friction question. So I'm going to demonstrate, hey, Giselle, I just wanted to check in with you and kind of lay out everything that I've done so far. These are all of the property. I've reached out to these 98 property owners on your behalf because, at least according to public tax record data, they fit the criteria you had given me. We got some, some maybes, some yeses, etc. Some of which I shared with you, some of which I didn't even share because upon further review, they didn't actually fit your criteria because there was something mismatched on the public record data, etc. I am more than happy to continue to work on your behalf. Before I do so, though, I'm just curious, is there any chance you would consider using me when it's time to go back into a full agency representation relationship versus the person you used before? So not like an ultimatum, but would you be totally opposed to allowing me to represent you and demonstrating before asking the question the additional value you've already brought, even before there was a formal representation agreement in place? The filters that I look through when it's a scenario like this is, if my only win is the needle in the haystack, I'm not going to invest much time and energy. In other words, if the only possible way that I am going to facilitate a transaction and earn a compensation is if I make that perfect match, I'm not going to invest a whole lot of time. When would that be? Well, for me, if I had a very specific buyer looking in the outer rim of my geographic coverage area, and they were looking for something very specific, I might see if I can turn over some stones and see what I can find for them. But I'm not going to go deep dive all in, because ultimately, in most cases, to make a transaction, to facilitate a transaction, we're going to have to do some in-person work. And if I'm driving 50 minutes for this long shot opportunity, probably not. Let me take the other side of it. The inspiration for the audience that I'll be live prospecting later, it's in my town. And I have a buyer in hand who's like hounding me for deals. And I have at least 3 to 5 other investor buyers in my hand that would be interested if he's not. And I know that type of off-market deal would generate me a whole bunch more inbound. And I know that I'm really good at taking and servicing those types of listings. So there's like literally 4, 5, 6 different ways that I could win from that work. If there's one win opportunity, and it's a big upside, meaning the compensation would be significant if I do find a match, maybe I'll do a little bit, but I'm looking what are multiple ways that I can win? And not only that, but thinking through sharing, documenting, and demonstrating as you're winning to turn that into more opportunities. Doreen, then Wendy.
I don't know if you want an opinion, but I have found over the years, people tell us and demonstrate exactly who they are. And they already did that when they said they were loyal to the original listing agent. So I'm all for digging in and going deep, but in 23 years, it's been done to me and it doesn't feel well. So I have a different viewpoint on that, and taking the stance that we have this wonderful tool in front of us with so many leads to generate. She already demonstrated that she's working on it.
Yeah, but so I think you're missing a little bit of the context, and that may be my fault in explaining. Number one, they haven't necessarily said steadfast that they are 100% committed to this other buyer agent. I don't think anyway. Number one, and number two, hold on, Doreen. Number two, part of my point is to Wendy is if she wants, if the property, and she's using Lead Deck to do this, by the way, she's just bringing in, she's using the strategy that I shared last week and created 2 tutorials. We did one with Stephanie and I did one standalone where she's using another data provider that she can get more granular neighborhood wise to do that. And my point is, I get where you're coming from 100%, but and here, and this may be why Wendy has her hand up. She, during our conversation, she said, my bait in this case is the buyer, not the off-market listing. And just changing that framework around that, I'm using this bait to create more listing opportunities for me, knowing that if I'm thinking about selling, what do I actually want? Not a listing agent, not a single person says, you know what, we should sell. We better go find a listing agent. That what they want is an offer. What they want is an offer. And what she is providing is the potential of an offer with the ability to pivot to, here are other solutions that you may have. Sorry, I was interrupting you, Doreen. Go ahead.
No. It seems that she's doing a lot of running around trying to find them the perfect property. And if they don't understand that she's already doing the work and don't have a new loyalty to her, but are still connected to their old, quote, listing agent, because I know a lot of agents that do that. They'll say, I'll list your property, but if you find a buyer's agent to take you around. So I'm just saying that, like, my experiences have been a little different.
Can you at least understand the perspective
the perspective.
She has the opportunity to use them just as much as they're using her. If she does it strategically, and that's the hard part. That's the part that there's no perfect one size fits all, that's the end of it. So Wendy has her hand up, and then Harry, which I think would be great. No, that's great. It's good. I appreciate the context. I'm sure everyone does.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. I was like, they're my bait. Like I was looking at those buyers like, okay, I'm like, they're ready to go. They're locked and loaded. They know what they want. Like, I find it, they're writing an offer for $1 million for like same day. But, and I started talking to Josh and he said something to me and I was like, oh, flip, like they're the bait. Like I need to shift and be more focused on who can I obtain as a listing client off of that bait. And I kind of picked them up strategically because this is a very high-end, great price point here in Metro Charlotte. I know these homes, anything I list is going to sell. So I think that was like one of the big things for me was like in the process as we're working through these, I need to make sure I know who's the bait and who's the target. And if I happen to sell the bait, awesome, but I'm going to go find some listings.
Perfect. So I'll connect some potential scenarios real quick, and then Harry. The original 3-step deal sprint blueprint is you find bait typically on market listed properties, because that's the easiest way to know for sure that they're open to an offer. You use that bait to have a reason to reach out to active buyers, cash buyers, landlord buyers, multifamily buyers, whatever. You can also use it as bait, making a post like this with the intent to, in step 3, be making offers either on that bait or otherwise having a reason to then be reaching out to off-market sellers, because you now have clarity. This is someone who, at least from my vetting, is ready, willing, and able to make an offer on this type of property if I can uncover that. And so just knowing that sort of, that you're positioning yourself as a facilitator, and in those scenarios, there's multiple ways you can win. And also, the least likely solution is you actually find the perfect match for them, although it does happen. If you do it enough, it does happen. But if you don't have ways to ensure that you're winning along the way, regardless, that's when I'm usually like, okay, I'm going to pivot and focus my energy elsewhere. I've got this, for example, I've got this guy who's hounding me for a multifamily property in Mechanicsburg. He is chomping at the bit. And I'm pretty confident I can find him something. And if it's not the something he wants, I'm really confident I can pivot to, would you be totally opposed to allowing me the opportunity to get this thing on the open market? And if he's not interested, I already have another 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 that would be interested, and I might be able to facilitate with another one of them off market. Harry.
I was just going to say that your suggestion about basically demonstrating value as a way to get these people to commit, that's important, right? You have to show the consumer what you've done, and maybe Wendy has, but if she hasn't, then just doing an email and saying, here's what I did, boom, 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 boom. It's like when you have a listing that's not selling, if you send them the market report, right? You send them a marketing report and you say, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're justifying your fee. Anyway, that's it.
That's great. I'm gonna piggyback with two things on that. I'm gonna take the last one. I have an active listing. It's my neighbor. He's a buddy of mine. I've known him for years. It's a newer townhome that he and his significant other, which are now parting ways, bought as an investment property. They've had a tenant in there and they're now parting ways, and the tenant left at the end of December, or maybe it was the end of November. It doesn't really matter. And we have it listed. And I think we started slightly too high, but we've corrected the pricing. And also we've had a blizzard. We've had 2-degree weather. We had another snowstorm and this, that, and the other thing. And we've had some activity, but not enough to get an offer. And ours is one of 2 resales where there are also 10 or 12 brand new construction. And well, Harry's wincing. I sent him a video yesterday because Tuesday is my listing update days. And I sent him a video and I showed him the activity on homes.com and Zillow, et cetera. And I also showed him the current active. And I don't think we should drop the price. I think we just need to be patient because we're $25,000 less than the next highest new construction. And we're like 50,000 less than a majority of the new construction inventory. So my pivot is, and I communicated this, and I am actually running an ad for this, is telling the story of walking into equity. You have an opportunity to walk into some equity here, because I can show that the identical property, it is identical other than 2 or 3 years newer, but it's the same floor plan, it's the same everything. The cheapest one that is sold in the last 180 days is $394, and the average is $410, and we're at $375. So like I need to do a better job of communicating that. And also me just sharing that with him bought me more time and patience from him. He's a little bit of an anxious fella. He texts me a lot, but I do think it's going to sell. in a perfect world, we would have already had a contract, but we're fighting against Mother Nature, among other things. I think we're a week or two away from getting the right offer and proceeding. You opened your line again, Harry. I didn't know if you had another point to add.
I was just going to say the reason I winced is, this has happened to me a couple of times over the years where you get what I like to call a late model used house where they're still building new construction.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a challenge, shall we say.
Yeah.
That's all.
You have to be, it has to be enough of a deal to overcome, like, where is my breaking point? And it's hard to know that.
Right.
And so the pivot is walking into equity and also getting more aggressive, marketing it to an investor who may want a low maintenance. It would be low cash flow, but it would be potentially, what I'm playing up is the tax advantages, the low maintenance, the walking into equity, and it's an area that has consistent, predictable appreciation. It's not like crazy appreciation, but it is consistent and predictable. It's 3 to 5% every year, year after year, like literally for years and years and years. So we'll see what happens. The other point I wanted to piggyback off of what Harry said, and I think this is relevant to the conversation with Wendy, is sometimes you don't even have to ask the question if you document and demonstrate the value that you're providing. For example, I have told a story repeatedly now of a client named Steve who I sold a building lot of his. I sold a 2-unit of his. We went and bought 63 acres. He's referred me another. And the guy that bought the 2-unit is now a client of mine as well. So that one conversation has turned into multiple. In my very first conversation with him, he told me about the 2-unit, which is not why I was reaching out to him. And shame on me, I didn't even know that he had it. Like, I didn't realize, but whatever. And he had told me that he was working with an agent on that, or had been talking with an agent about listing it. And I never directly tried to wedge my way in. I just documented and demonstrated my value to the point that he decided on his own, I'm going to give you the 2-unit as well. You seem way more knowledgeable and thorough and prepared than her. I never said it. I never planted that seed, or at least I don't remember intentionally doing it. And that's also not my personality. He just came to that conclusion on his own. And that may happen for Wendy as well. If she documents and demonstrate all of the things that she has been and is doing on their behalf, they may decide, you know what? I don't think this other lady did any of this for us. I think I'm going to do a little riff on this tomorrow, but when you're competing against an order taker and you're a transaction facilitator, you're actually bringing value. And also, if you don't actually demonstrate and document that, they'll have no idea. You actually have to show that and you have to find ways to do it without it being why you're so great, which can be tricky, but the part of it that's not tricky is if you actually have the evidence. In other words, Wendy could literally go into Deal Deck or Lead Deck, pull up the deal deck that she has, 50, 75, 100 off-market properties that she's been prospecting on their behalf, and show, look, I have reached out, I have called, texted, emailed, and sent direct mail to all of these on your behalf. I just wanted to keep you in the loop. That alone may do it. Who knows? Okay. I got about a half an hour because I'm keeping this tight because we've got the 11 and noon for folks participating in the listing spree. Talked with Susan last week. There were 3 problems, quote unquote, she needed help with. We addressed 2 of them last Thursday on the Closers Cafe. The third one was around her being cautious, and rightfully so, about how can I market off-market listings? How can I advertise off-market listings because of some specific language that's in her MLS? And so rather than me try to, overstep my bounds, my recommendation to her was get clarity in writing from your managing broker. Because if you have that, there's at least some level of protection for you for then to proceed with activities that are proven to generate activity for you. In other words, inbound. And actually, while we're on here, I have no idea what it is, but I've gotten a notification that someone has liked and commented on my Nextdoor post. We'll see. It could be terrible and negative, but there's some activity on it. The reply that she got from the managing broker was essentially, and I'm summarizing here and paraphrasing, but it was that you cannot in any way, what's the word I'm looking for? You cannot in any way hint, that's not the right word that I'm looking for, but you can't hint at the fact that this is your listing if it's not. You can't, oh my goodness, my brain doesn't want to work, but you can't infer that it's like your listing, number one. You can't provide specific price or address, and you should position it as you're in search of a buyer for this property. That's essentially paraphrased what the managing broker said. And essentially, the deal of the week email and these posts that I've been making have kind of addressed that. But I'm getting even more specific with this and using a phrase that I think a lot of people on social, particularly in Facebook groups or on, just in Facebook in general use, which is ISO, in search of buyer or parentheses buyers for the following currently off-market investment properties. Now I have currently because I am working with them on getting all of the agreements in place and so forth to have them at least 4 out of the 5 listed next week, but I know what their number is. And they don't care about the dog and pony show. They care about the number. One of the many reasons why I like absentee owners. It's black or white. Are we here or are we not? Right? It's not, I don't like how the kitchen looks. Or I don't like, this is not disparaging, but I've sold lots of properties in my community here where the wife walks in and she pulls out her compass and she's like, it's the front of the house is facing the wrong way. Well, could we have figured that out online before we came out here? Like whatever. That's just not my cup of tea. Okay. So anyway, why would I not try to sell them before I actually have it doesn't matter to me. It's like, it's the same thing with a for sale by owner. If for sale by owner says, yes, I'll pay you a finder's fee. You get a fee whether you list it or you bring the buyer. Who cares? And also, if you actually demonstrate, going back to the earlier conversation, if you actually document and demonstrate that you work on their behalf, who do you think they're more likely to work with if they haven't already decided on the listing agent that they're going to list with? Because some of them already have. But if they haven't, if you're the one that's like, here, look at all the work I did for you before I ever asked you for your business. Anyway, slight variation. I created, and this is actually kind of janky, but I put it together this morning. I could have done a better job, whatever. I used one of the strategies that I shared in the February 4th sprint. If you go to leaddeck.ai/sprints and you find the February 4th replay, there is a step-by-step walkthrough of how to create posts like this. And I have in there several different types of media that you can use. This is a Google map where I put the pins where the properties are. It is admittedly janky. But I just try different stuff. I'm not whatever. I just, throw stuff out there and see what sticks. So this is my copy. This is the image. This is my Nextdoor post. I also posted it. The way I did it on Facebook is I posted it on my Facebook page, and then I shared it from my profile into 10 groups. And I honestly have no idea if anybody's DM'd me. I don't think I've gotten any texts yet. I did miss a call, which I broke my own rule because I was kind of in flow. I didn't answer the call, but I would absolutely call this person back. I thought it might be a spam or scam phone number, so I'm going to call them back. And I didn't want to stop my my train of thought. But I posted it here, and then I shared it, and then I posted it on my Google Business profile. And the only difference with this is you can add a button on your Google Business profile, and I added the call now button. So my call to action is tap call now below and let's chat. That's literally the only difference. My call to action on the other two are DM me or text me at which number, parentheses numbers, and I'll send you more info. They don't care if someone buys all 5. If we have 3 different buyers, again, they don't care. What they care is net number. That's all. We want this net from these 5 properties. However you get there, we're good with. Whatever. So I'm going to hit refresh. I have no idea what this comment is going to be, good, bad, or ugly, but I've gotten 1 comment so far on my Nextdoor post, and I only know that because I got a notification on my phone. Let's see here. Oh, I've gotten 2 comments. Okay. Thanks for responding. I didn't respond. So it was positive. You never know what you'll get on this. Sometimes, I don't know, you get some Karens or Kens. I don't know if Ken is the male version of a Karen. I don't know what that is.
Nextdoor can be so ugly sometimes.
It can. And I've made posts where people are saying nonsense in there. And I've had people that I don't know at all come in and defend me in the comments. So I usually, if something's a little, what I usually do, there's some things where I'm like, delete. But sometimes I'll let it simmer for 12 or 24 hours and see what, if anything else happened, because a lot of those I end up getting potential business from. Someone will DM me. Like I've even gotten people to DM and they're like, man, that comment section got a little wild. I don't know what's going on with that, but I am interested in what you're offering. It's because you just never know. Anyway, comments on here, as long as they're not, just really negative and derogatory, it's just like Nextdoor algorithm is just like any social algorithm. It means that they're going to show it to more people and the reach will go up, etc. I'll be reaching out, going to read more. Right on. Feel free to shoot me a DM or text me at. And one of the things I'll clarify if or when they reach out is, are they interested in one of these to live in? Are they looking to purchase a primary residence, or are they an investor of some kind? Okay, so I'm pretty good on time because I'm gonna end on this, I think anyway. Is I wrote my deal of the week email that I'm gonna send out this week. Most weeks, I send it to everybody in my email or in my database that I have an email for. Everybody. No judgment, no nothing. This week, I'm going to segment because tomorrow, I'm going to manually send an email that is specifically written for the homeowners in my database. So I want to segment them out before I send my deal of the week email, because I want to, I do that once a month ish in particular, or especially when I'm doing my home value update. So the week that I'm sending my home value update, I'm not also going to send to them, or you could just send them. I say that in January, I think I sent both in the same week to the same, I sent the home value to the homeowners and I sent my deal of the week to them and anyone else. So, it is what it is. Let's see here. I'm going to go to, actually, no. First and foremost, I'm going to show you the contacts that you don't have their primary address. And also, I would assume that virtually any platform you're using, there's a way for you to do that as well. Okay, maybe not, but Follow Up Boss, Lofty, Sierra. I'm guessing you might have to play with what that looks like, but I'm pretty confident you can do that on any decent CRM at this point. I'm going to choose buyer. You know what? I'm not even going to choose buyer. Who cares? All I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go contact details. I'm going to choose has email, subscribed to email, and no primary address. No primary address. Hit results. I'll show my email then, but it pretty much it's this with like 2 slight tweaks. It's literally the same thing. Okay, so I've got 9,400. Holy smokes. I'm going to save this filter. Has email, subscribed, no primary address, and I'm going to put the date just so I know when I saved this. I don't know that it would matter that I date it because it's dynamic. It dynamically updates the search criteria when you pull it in, but just like for my own peace of mind, I guess I put the date and I can pin it, which means it shows up as a saved filter here, and I can just click on it and open it back up. So I've saved that. Now I need to schedule my mass email. So I go to marketing and then schedule mass email. And I'm going to click this and I'm going to choose the saved filter that I just saved. I want to send it tomorrow I'll send it at 10:30. And I can't remember how I named this. Oh, there it is. There you go. I added boom to the beginning of the subject line. I don't know. I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. When I'm sending a deal of the week email, I do my best to keep the same theme in the subject line, but I'll mix up the pieces. So I typically will include the date. It's tomorrow's date because it will be sending tomorrow. The date, at least in my viewpoint, tells the recipient this is relevant and timely, right? This isn't old, outdated stuff. I've got off market because that's the type of deal, and I've got central PA. If your database is more tightly if it's a tighter audience, I guess what am I trying to say? Be as relevant and congruent as you can without alienating people on the list. I'm in an area where I try lots of stuff, I market lots of stuff, I do a lot of stuff, I got a little team, etc. So I have these contacts. They may have requested information about a central PA property in 8 or 10 different counties. So I'm using that as my catch-all. But if you know that 80% of your database is Cumberland County or Philadelphia area or Montgomery County, Maryland, by communicating that in the subject line, you're telling the recipient it's more relevant to them. It's just, for me, I don't like that. I can't really get more narrow and have it be relevant. It tells too many people, oh, this isn't relevant to me, skip. So, there's a fine line with that. I don't have the first name of all of these people. Otherwise, I would include that in here. But I don't, because I have generated leads with certain things that don't collect first name. Maybe I do have a majority of them, now that I think about it. I don't know. If you can, or if you have that from a majority of people, that personalization will increase your open rate. I was going to say booyah. I was going to say, I don't know, just use some other word. All I'm trying to do with that is to get a pattern interrupt that they'll stop and read it and then open it. Because if they don't open it, it's as though it doesn't exist, right? So we got to, first of all, we got to get them to stop scrolling their email. Then we got to get them to open it. Okay, what is this about? And then obviously we want as many responses or replies as we can.
Hey, Josh.
Go ahead.
So what I've done, because I don't have a lot of first names, so either, I don't use Bold Trail, but I'll just, put the code for the first name and then just start in. Yeah, it's going to show up with a space there, but, and I'll even do that on a subject line or, in the document, hi, Frank. But if there's nothing there,
It just says hi. Yeah.
With an exclamation, there's a space before the exclamation point, but I don't care.
Yeah. Why don't I do, here's your Central PA deals of the week, and I'm going to merge in their first name. Why not? I'm going to put their first name because it'll just skip it and just do the ... the ellipsis anyway. And watch this. I'm going to go, here's where I don't want to do it. What I was going to do is put their name and put apostrophe S, but then it'll just, if they don't have a first name, it'll just put apostrophe S. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say deals of the week, first name, and then the date. So
that's too, like what Stuart was talking about. I've done that too, where I won't put a comma after the first name, so it does that. But in Bold Trail, doesn't it? If you're not clearing out the ones that have a phone number, where it throws it into that first name column, then
yeah, but I don't think I would have their email if it's putting phone number and first name. I think it only does that. Well, I don't care. I'm going to give it a try. Like I'm just I'm going to send a deal of the week email next week, and we'll see what happens. I may or may not include it then, but I'm going to schedule that out. And the email, as this is loading, is essentially the same, except the call to action is just, who do you know that might be interested? Just hit reply and let me know. I'm encouraging them to forward. I'm letting them know you can purchase, as a package of 5 in combo or standalone. And the PS, I'm including another potential catch-all. We also have a variety of off-market multifamily and mixed-use income-producing properties available. And I didn't want to say, hit reply and let me know or interested, whatever, because I've already gotten that in there. I didn't want to be like too redundant with that. The right person will read that and be like, oh, tell me about these. So I will not be able to report back until Monday, the amount of replies that I have gotten from that. But what I can say is, for me, having the multiple and them choosing, I've been featuring 3 to 5 per week pretty consistently for the last few weeks. And that for me has gotten me an outsized amount of replies and responses versus when I was featuring one property. And that could also be in part due to the fact that these recipients are all over the board. In other words, they may be looking in any number of counties, school districts, etc. in my market. They may be investors looking for this, that, the other thing. And so I'm giving them multiple, I'm giving them a little bit of an all you can eat, a smorgasbord, and then they can pick. But if your database, like if you've been building a list of, and you have, let me give you maybe a framework to think. If you have in the hundreds or thousands of leads that have specifically asked for something, that audience should get its own deal of the week. What do I mean practically? If I have, which I do, so I'm telling myself I have to get better, I guess is what I'm saying. But if you have 100, 200, 500, 1,000 people that have requested a list of new construction homes in Cumberland County, then it probably makes sense and would warrant you to do a Cumberland County new construction home of the week, specifically for that audience. You will get a higher open rate. You'll get a higher engagement rate because you're matching what they requested with what you're offering. It's just that I'm at a point where there's only so much granularity I could do, because of these 9,300, I could probably make 5 buckets. I could make a catch-all bucket, and I could make 3 or 4 others where I have in the hundreds of, they requested this. Like I've got several hundred that requested homes with land in Central PA. I've had, hundreds or maybe even 1,000 new construction homes, either, in Cumberland County or in Central PA, whatever. I'm just at a point where there's only so many hours, so much time in the day. And that's the right answer for me. That might not be the right answer for you, depending on the situation or scenario that you're in. All right. One other thing I'm going to share, and this will just more be, I guess it'll be theoretical and in practice, because I made a note of this for myself, and I need to actually return to it. I have this package of 5 properties, what I'm featuring. Ooh, look at that, Susan. I like her image better. I'm going to have to make a version of that image to try tomorrow, because I have more that I want to post. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the chat. Susan's image that she's doing and she got 8 comments so far. Susan, let's go. Let's go. I was in my, I was scrolling my feed, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday. And I saw someone post in a local real estate related Facebook group that they were selling a portfolio of 10 or 20 properties. And there were all these comments. So I'm going to do what I would call more of a laser approach. I don't know why I went like this. Lasers. I saved that post. Now I got to figure out where to find my saved posts on here. Who knows where your saved posts are? If I go to home, no. If I go more, no. What the heck? It's not notifications. Golly. Oh, here we go. You got to hit the hamburger up at the top right. If you hit the hamburger top right and then go to saved, okay? I don't want to share too much, but I'm selling a portfolio of 20 properties. Message me for details. And it got 27 reactions. Got 27 reactions and a bunch of people commenting, etc. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, this afternoon, I'm going to go through and DM all of the people that commented something along the lines of interested. And I say all, except I'm not. Because there's one guy. And I hope you all know that, generally speaking, I'm pretty chill. But there is this agent in my market that I've been so close to just lighting on fire publicly because of how much of an ass he is. But this has kept me, I try to remember, do unto others as you would have done to you, etc. But he's just such an ass. And he's been incredibly rude, not just to me, I can take it, but to clients of mine. It just is like, oh, why? Like, dude, please do something and get yourself banned. Lose your license. Anyway, I don't know why I had to. Maybe I'll get that out of my system from now on. But the rest of them, all but him, I'm going to DM, and I may even friend them, because if they're in the business and I'm not already friends with them, I mean, why wouldn't I? And I'm seeing some names in here that I recognize as well, but it won't do any harm in me doing that, in sharing that. It will help me create more connections. And once again, best case scenario, one of them is actually interested in one or maybe the whole portfolio. Worst case scenario, I put another card or any number of cards in my hand to learn what they want, what their buy box is, so that I can keep it in mind the next time I find that thing. For example, at 11, if I find a multifamily in Mechanicsburg, that doesn't work for my guy Shankar. I don't know how to say. I know how to say his name. I talk to him all the time, but I always struggle with it. If that doesn't work for him, just, I've got another potential way that I can say, oh, would this be something you're interested in? So it sort of relates to something I've recommended for those of you who are following the 3-step deal blueprint and doing that kind of proactive transaction facilitator work, is earmarking a day a week to do that kind of outreach, whether it is to, in this case, people commenting who are clearly interested in investing, potentially, already have a portfolio, et cetera, or wholesalers with inventory, or, other flippers in that you are able to pull with Lead Deck, et cetera. All right. Any questions or anything before I wrap it up? At 11, once again, I'm going to be live prospecting multifamily tax default. And if I run out of that deck, if I get through that whole deck, I'm going to do multifamily involuntary lien in a specific city for a specific client that I have. And then at noon, we'll have our last live Q&A for the listing sprint, day 3. Jonita.
So I just got a telephone call from a listing agent. Easy enough, from one of my absentee owner reach outs on yesterday. And when I look in Lead Deck, it shows that it was a failed listing. However, when I look into our MLS, it shows active on the market for 33 days, right? And I don't even see in the MLS where it was a failed listing. So any idea what happened there?
At some point it was a failed, it doesn't make up that data. So somehow or another, in somewhere, it was a failed listing. But a failed listing could have been from 2019. And it could have been from a different MLS platform, et cetera, because that doesn't scrub out of there. So
I see it says expired listing.
Where?
So,
in your MLS?
In Lead Deck. No, in Lead Deck. It
Okay.
doesn't show expired in the MLS, but in Lead Deck, it shows expired listing. And then one of the little tags on it says failed listing.
Okay.
So
I don't know what to tell you other than it doesn't make up stuff. So at some point it pulled in that it was actively listed on the MLS and expired. I forget where we're
I'll
at
check
with
one
the
of our other
active.
MLSs because it
The
may
problem
have been
with us blocking active listings from being ported in is because that also is flawed, because it will sometimes, it doesn't have batch data, which is where we get the data, doesn't have a direct MLS connection with every MLS in the United States. So it's relying on feeds that are not 100% reliable. Meaning, if I go and pull, if I go directly and pull the data in batch, and I want active single-family residential listings in Mechanicsburg, it will probably give me, I'll just give a round number, it'll give me 200. 100 are actually active, and the other 100 aren't actually active anymore. So it's not foolproof. In that scenario, it's just very transparent. We're reaching out to absentee-owned property owners in the area. We had no idea it was actively listed. In fact, the data we're using says contrary to that it's actually expired. In no way, shape, or form was that an attempt for me to solicit your active listing. And oh, by the way, since I've had you, as long as they're not grumpy or whatever, what's the story? Catch me up to speed. What's going on with this one? Because maybe it turns into bait that you can use to then have a reason to reach out to the cash buyers or the active landlord buyers, et cetera. So, obviously, I would like the data to be perfect and flawless, but it never is. Somebody, I think it was yesterday, Tom was sharing that for whatever reason, the way that their county is reporting data, it is listing the mortgage companies as the mailing address for taxes. That makes no sense. But unfortunately, we can't fix that. That's how, and it might have been a mistake by the county courthouse. That might have been accidental, but yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet. Susan.
So real quick on this ad, I know that you send the image back to your phone in a photo and then you tag it for location for GEO purposes, right?
I do, but I didn't this morning.
Okay, so, but my question is.
I hear,
even
here,
though
can I just stop you for a second? I'm
Yeah.
more thorough or militant about that. I don't like the word militant because I'm not whatever, but I'm more
Anal.
yeah, about that if it's my own listing and it's actively listed, because I want to send every signal to whatever SEO, AEO, etc., to get as much juice as possible on a post like this, and in particular for mine. I tagged the location in Nextdoor, but I didn't do anything with the photo itself. But I did tag Lower Paxton Township because it was 5 properties. I didn't want to tag a specific property because I didn't want to. Honestly, I didn't want to disclose what the specific property was, but I wanted to tell Nextdoor what the relevant area is. So sorry, I didn't mean to derail you, but continue with that.
No, that makes sense, but my real question was, I think I tagged it, right? But regardless, if it's not clickable, if there's no reason for someone to click on it, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, that's not the reason why you do that. The reason why
Okay.
you do that is when you upload it to Nextdoor and Google and even Facebook, it is looking at the geolocation and the captions for it to decide, is this, or to give more weight to it being relevant to a specific audience. In this case, I don't think it matters. Like I
Like if
said,
it's posted in
I'm more thorough or anal about that if I'm posting my own coming soon, just listed, just sold, etc. In those cases, I do think it makes sense to tag the geolocation and to add captions, etc. This is just an inbound lead generation strategy. And what we're trying to do is get somebody to see it, stop, read, and DM or text.
Okay, gotcha.
And Richard, you're right. Mortgage companies as property tax, might those be impounded escrow? That is, but I've looked at thousands and thousands of records. I've never seen that. That one county is doing something weird because, and he made it sound like the whole county that if they had a mortgage was being that way. I've never seen that before. Never. And I've looked at thousands of absentee property records using, the old process that inspired Lead Deck. I've never seen that. So it's something weird going on with that, because usually on absentee properties, if you send to the mailing address, it's their property address. I mean, sometimes it's a PO box or, occasionally it's like a corporate address or something like that. But Tom made it seem like the entire county was like that, which was unusual. And also nothing we can do about it because it's how the data is being shared or reported. Okay, I'm going to reset. If you are participating in the sprint, I would come, if you're coming to 11, come and have leads collected so you can do the contacting. And it's going to be, 45, 50 minutes tops, because I want to reset before our last live Q&A of the listing sprint. And then back tomorrow for Closers Cafe. And I'm going to workshop some analogies I've been working on. And I would love some feedback on which ones seem the most relevant and connect with you the most, because words matter. And I do my best to present ideas in different ways so that it can connect with as many of you as possible. In other words, if I say one thing one way, some of you receive that and it clicks and it makes sense, but some of you are like, that still doesn't make any sense to me. Can you give me another way of communicating that? So I've got that. And then I will also close the loop on something I teased yesterday, which is a different angle or email style for the homeowners in my database. So I segmented them out of the deal of the week email. Tomorrow I'm going to have that email ready, and I'm going to send that. I'm not going to schedule it. I'm actually going to send it in batches of 250 because in my experience, the deliverability is a little bit better. And I really want this. I want to get them this to them in particular because of the timing right now. The fact that we're, turning the corner on spring season. I want to catch any low hanging fruit that may be in my database that I don't already have ready to go to list. LeadDeck.ai/closers is where you can find the link to register for these live Zooms and the replays. LeadDeck.ai/sprints is where you can find the replays and the link to join the live Zoom room for the 11 a.m. Wednesday sessions. Hope to see you then. If not, see you tomorrow morning.